Tyler, under house arrest and bored out of his mind, was overjoyed when a girl unexpectedly came to visit him. The girl's name was Haley, and she was a werewolf. It was thanks to Haley's help that Tyler was able to break free from his allegiance to Klaus. When she heard Tyler was in trouble, she rushed over as soon as she could. Fortunately, with Klaus no longer able to create hybrids, Tyler agreed to let Haley stay. Haley, who lived in the mountains, was shocked by the luxury of Tyler's home. Just then, Caroline arrived, and she was genuinely taken aback by the number of bodyguards surrounding Tyler. Then Caroline frowned, which meant that Klaus had also returned. For some reason, Tyler felt a pang of guilt when facing Caroline. Meanwhile, in the study, Klaus noticed Haley. Haley was on high alert. She had already figured out the identity of the man standing before her.
My reputation precedes me. Hopefully not all bad.
A little bad. Mostly repulsive.
Klaus was visibly displeased. How dare this little she-wolf challenge him? But when Klaus overheard Tyler in the living room, making excuses to try and get Caroline to leave, a smirk appeared on his face. It turns out that Tyler betrayed Caroline. Klaus's opportunity had arrived. Never, ever cross a female vampire. Not only are they petty, but they hold grudges. The newly turned vampire Elena had dared to challenge Rebekah, one of the originals. Rebekah's taunts and humiliations infuriated Elena, pushing her to sneak into Damon's room in search of the white oak stake, the only weapon capable of killing an original. Unfortunately, Damon caught her red-handed. Elena lied, claiming she was just looking for alcohol, but Damon immediately saw through Elena's lie. The white oak stake had always been carried by Damon, knowing full well that killing an original would take thousands of vampires down with them. Damon still handed the stake over to Elena. He was just that devoted to her. Later, Elena went to attend Rebekah's party, clearly not there with good intentions, but Rebekah, being one of the originals, wouldn't even bother to take Elena seriously. As soon as they met, a confrontation was inevitable. Who would have thought that Rebekah would silently slip off Elena's daylight ring? Without the ring's protection, Elena's skin was burned by the sunlight, forcing her to quickly teleport to a shaded corner. Rebekah was very pleased. She didn't intend to kill Elena, just to toy with her a little. Elena, however, had no choice but to retrieve the ring from the sink while enduring the sun's scorching rays. Her expression turned grim. She then pulled a white oak stake from her bag, ready to fight Rebekah to the death. But fortunately, Stefan arrived just in time. Elena was enraged. Rebekah had humiliated her time and time again, and she wanted revenge. Stefan, however, let the way out. He wanted Elena to think about the consequences on her own. The satisfaction of revenge wouldn't last long, but the guilt would.
See, rage is a really powerful feeling, but guilt, it'll destroy you.
Only then did Elena calm down. Stefan decided to take her out for a drive. However, before leaving, Elena performed a handstand while drinking, stealing all the attention from Rebekah as a small act of revenge. Just as Rebekah was feeling annoyed, her vision suddenly blurred, and she staggered, red veins appearing beneath her skin. On the other side, Klaus sensed Tyler's infidelity. Klaus told Haley to leave through the back door to cover for Tyler, but Klaus hoped Tyler would confess to Caroline on his own. Tyler, embarrassed and furious, refused to admit anything. At that moment, Damon called. He had intended to team up with Tyler to take down the vampire hunter, but Klaus answered the phone instead.
He wouldn't. I, however...
At the same time, Jeremy approached the vampire hunter, Connor, to deliver some intel. The town's doctor was colluding with vampires, using their blood to treat patients. Upon hearing this, Connor was furious. This town is far too corrupted. Vampires run rampant, even in the schools and hospitals, he said. Only then did Jeremy learn that Connor had spiked the drinks at the party with Wolfsbane. At that moment, Elena, who was out for a drive, didn't know that she had been poisoned with werewolf venom. Connor, tricked by Jeremy, was lured to the hospital and caught in Damon's trap. 2 arrows pierced Connor's body, with the other ends attached to explosives. Damon was using Connor's own tactics against him. Klaus then appeared as well. They were an insanely evil duo, but Connor was tough. He wasn't about to beg for his life. When Damon interrogated Connor about his tattoos, Klaus's expression changed. He bluntly stated that Connor might not be an ordinary hunter. The symbols on Connor's weapons only confirmed Klaus's suspicions.
You wanted to fight.
Connor even wanted to die together, and Damon's reaction was the quickest. On the other side, Elena's werewolf venom kicked in, and Stefan was frantic. he still didn't know that all of Elena's hallucinations were about Damon.
And part of you knows you're a lot more like me than you are like him.
Upon hearing the news, Klaus rushed over immediately. He questioned Stefan with a smirk, asking what they would do if he wasn't in town, and what would have happened if they had killed him back then. Stefan panicked, thinking Klaus was trying to negotiate. Klaus still considered Stefan a friend, but Stefan always suspected him with malicious intent. Elena had Klaus's blood to cure the venom, but the proud Rebekah could only endure the wolf venom. Although it couldn't kill the originals, it still left her weakened. Just then, Matt surprisingly came to visit her, deeply moving Rebekah. Unexpectedly, Matt came to rub salt in the wound. He accused Rebekah of not having any friends, and she deserved it. In her anger, Rebekah ripped out Matt's heart, only to immediately regret it.
The reason you don't find love is because you don't deserve it.
Thankfully, it was just a hallucination. When Rebekah awoke, she found the house empty, with only April helping her clean up. Everything in her dream made Rebekah cherish this kindness even more. She wanted to make friends with April, so she volunteered to help April investigate the death of Pastor Young. Meanwhile, Damon blew up the hospital, infuriating Fel, but with the vampire hunter dead, Damon acted indifferent. Fel sincerely advised Damon,
Fix things with Stefan and Elena. Don't let your pride leave you all alone.
After Elena returned home, Matt came by to offer her blood. Unexpectedly, this time Elena lost control, but fortunately, Damon arrived in time to stop her and erased Matt's memory. On the other side, the vampire hunter Connor was actually still alive. It turned out Klaus had saved Connor. Connor was confused by Klaus's motives and what being one of the five meant. Only then did Klaus realize that while Connor had the hunter's mark, he knew nothing about his origins. To combat the immortal originals, 1,000 years ago, witches used magic and fire to create the five. Each of them was a muscular warrior with magically enhanced tattoos and swords. They took it upon themselves to hunt vampires and were the world's first vampire hunters. In the 12th century, the originals family once clashed with the five, and that battle nearly wiped out the originals. At that time, the originals family had just arrived in Italy, reveling in blood wherever they went and recruiting followers along the way. Unexpectedly, they attracted Alexander, one of the five, who publicly executed several vampires and warned the people. In the crowd, Klaus was dismissive, confident in the number of his followers. Elijah warned Klaus to be more restrained. Among the five originals, Klaus and Cole were the most reckless. While Klaus and Elijah observed Alexander, their younger sister Rebekah was already involved with him, because Alexander didn't know that the originals had daylight rings. He didn't suspect the Michelson family and even accepted their invitation to a feast. The goal of the originals is to find out what's going on. Alexander is completely defenseless. He told the originals that the purpose of the five was to eliminate all vampires. In addition to their combat skills, the five were immune to vampire compulsion, even from the originals. To investigate the ultimate weapon, Rebekah's brothers all tacitly allowed her relationship with Alexander. Love can blind people, and Alexander revealed the secret of his tattoo, explaining that it was a map leading to the ultimate weapon, with the sword being the key to decoding it. Rebekah didn't care about factions or weapons. She genuinely fell in love with Alexander and agreed to elope with him. Unexpectedly, while being intimate with Rebekah, Alexander stabbed her with a dagger. The dagger capable of sealing the originals came from the five.
He and his brothers put us all down in our sleep. Cheers to my sister's uncanny ability to choose men.
Fortunately, Klaus's werewolf lineage made him immune to the dagger's effects, causing the five to miscalculate. Klaus killed Alexander. Aside from witches and the White Oak, Klaus was nearly invincible. After the near destruction of the originals family, Klaus blamed Rebekah for everything. It turned out that the ultimate weapon the hunters spoke of was a cure for vampirism, and Rebekah exposed herself because she longed for the cure, desperate to become human again.
You trusted him over me!
Hearing this, Stefan frowned, immediately thinking of using the vampire cure for Elena. No wonder Klaus saved Connor. Connor inherited the hunter's tattoo, and that tattoo was the key to finding the cure, because only Jeremy can see the tattoo. Klaus sent someone to kidnap Jeremy and make him draw Connor's tattoo. Connor was furious at Jeremy's betrayal, questioning why. As a vampire hunter, he would side with vampires. As Jeremy drew, he explained that not all vampires were evil, and he asked Connor how he got his tattoo. Connor told Jeremy that he noticed the tattoo on a comrade during his military service, and when that comrade died, the tattoo appeared on his own body. Furthermore, each time he killed a vampire, the tattoo expanded, but since he hadn't killed many, it wasn't complete. Klaus wanted to form an alliance with Stefan because he was certain that Stefan would help him. They both wanted Elena to become human again. That way, Elena's blood could continue making hybrids. Rebekah understood her brother's intentions. Well, the tattoo was a map, and the sword was the key, but she refused to reveal the sword's location.
You know what? You can shove your cure.
Stefan coaxed and moved Rebekah, finally getting her to reveal the sword's whereabouts. It turned out that Rebekah had buried Alexander's body and the sword together in the church where they had planned to marry. When Klaus appeared, Rebekah realized she had been deceived again. Klaus brought the sealing dagger, while Stefan blocked Rebekah's escape. Poor Rebekah had been betrayed countless times, yet she remained naive. Her ruthless brother Klaus sealed her away once more. The secret of the cure could not be leaked. Klaus prepared to head to Italy to retrieve the sword, but before leaving, he instructed Stefan to erase Jeremy's memory. Elsewhere, Connor deliberately provoked his hybrid guard and bit off his ear. The hybrid left cursing, unaware that his earring had fallen into Connor's mouth. Vampires' nightlife was wild, indulging in their true nature at costume parties, openly feeding. Since Elena's transformation into a vampire, she was likely the pickiest one, unable to drink animal blood or even tolerate blood bags. She could only consume fresh human blood. Elena nearly drained Matt, so Damon decided to help her control her bloodlust. Despite Stefan, the official boyfriend, being upset, he could only acquiesce. This gave Damon a legitimate reason to be close to Elena. As Elena and Bonnie were about to graduate from high school, they suddenly received an invitation from a university. It turned out that Bonnie's grandmother had taught there, and her grandmother's friend, Professor Shane, invited them to audit a class. Damon tagged along, even sharing his college experience with Elena and Bonnie. Professor Shane's class is also about supernatural creatures. He talks about witches, vampires, and werewolves, and he even knows about doppelgangers. This made Damon and the others suspicious. Professor Shane spoke confidently on stage, while Damon helped Elena pick a victim in the audience, ensuring she could have a good meal after class. Damon selected a girl for Elena. After class, Elena stopped the girl and hypnotized her under the pretext of borrowing her notes, while Damon kept watch for Elena. Just as Elena was about to feed, she noticed a family photo on the girl's phone. Damon frowned. Sure enough, Elena let the girl go. Damon berated Elena's compassionate nature, pointing out that everyone has a family. Everyone is someone's child or parent. She was just borrowing a little blood to satisfy her hunger and wouldn't kill them. At this time, Bonnie brought over an invitation to a haunted house-themed party. Damon dressed as Jack the Ripper, while Elena and Bonnie were his victims. Unexpectedly, Professor Shane also attended the party, and Bonnie wanted to go talk to him about her grandmother. Meanwhile, Damon helped Elena choose a target. They discovered a scumbag spiking a girl's drink. Feeding on him would alleviate Elena's guilt. A skilled hunter often presents as the prey. Elena lured the man to a secluded spot. Initially, Damon worried Elena might lose control. Although she drank a few extra sips, it didn't result in any casualties, and she had already mastered the use of her compulsion abilities perfectly. Elena excitedly jumped into Damon's arms, and he looked at her with affection.
I want more.
Meanwhile, Professor Shane took Bonnie to his office to give her some of her grandmother's belongings. Shane's collection was all about the supernatural, including an ancient painting that looked like part of the Five's tattoo. While Bonnie was looking at a photo of her and her grandmother, Shane said something that shocked her.
Do you practice?
It turned out Shane knew Sheila's true identity. Bonnie didn't hide it. She admitted she was a witch. Ever since Bonnie's actions caused her grandmother's soul to suffer, she developed a mental block and could no longer perform magic. Unexpectedly, Shane told her,
If you're interested.
Are you?
What? No.
Shane may only be a scholar, but his knowledge can help Bonnie regain her magic. At the party, Elena completely let loose, dancing while feeding, becoming more indulgent and increasingly addicted to it. Both Elena and Damon were covered in blood, but here, no one would suspect anything. When Bonnie arrived, it was like a wake-up call for Elena, who believed Damon had led her astray. Bonnie also scolded Damon for letting Elena lose control.
Is that what you want? Her to be like you?
She already is like me.
Though everyone disapproved of Damon's methods, they were undeniably effective. leaving Elena with no argument. Elena knew Damon was right, but she hated who she was becoming, fearing she would turn into Catherine. When Damon dropped Elena off at home, Stefan had already been waiting for a long time. Damon quickly changed the subject, asking about the vampire hunter. Stefan hid the fact that there was a cure for vampirism. He knew that Damon would never want to see Elena turn back into a human. Meanwhile, vampire hunter Connor used the earring to unlock his shackles. Connor used a chain to rip off the hybrid's head. The newly extended tattoo on his arm was identical to the ancient painting in Professor Shane's collection.